We are here at the end of all things, or at least the end of the Pokemon anime's 4-episode battle to determine who is the most powerful trainer in the entire world. So let's talk about it. Hey Charles, it's everyone, how are you today? I'm not kidding when I say that Pokemon Journeys episode 132 just broke the internet, because people are going absolutely bonkers about this. Just in case you've been living under a Solrock for the past few years of the Pokemon anime, the 25 years running protagonist Ash Ketchum has gradually been rising through the ranks of the 10,000 plus trainer World Coronation Series competition and eventually managed to claim a spot in the Masters 8, a tournament in which the 8 best Pokemon trainers from far and wide duke it out to determine who is the world's monarch, aka the world's #1 trainer. Over the course of the Masters 8, we've seen big name champions like Lance, Diantha, and Iris eliminated from the tournament, and Ash Ketchum himself has defeated Steven Stone, the champion of Hoenn, ranked #3 in the world, as well as Cynthia, reigning champion of Sinnoh and reigning waifu of the internet, ranked #2 in the world, only to be ultimately toppled by Ash Ketchum so that the man from Pallet Town could book a date with Leon, the reigning monarch, in the finals. And what a final battle it has been. But like the best of blistering carnival rides, even the insanity of Ash vs. Leon had to come to an end, and here we are at that end, with the dust settled and the monarch crowned. There's a whole lot to talk about when it comes to the conclusion of the anime's biggest tournament of all time, so the plan today is to 1. Discuss how the heck Ash Ketchum even got this far, 2. Break down the highlights of Ash vs. Leon parts 1 through 3, and 3. Put the cherry on the cake by reviewing the key events of part 4's big finale. So please subscribe to edge us closer to that big 100, and let's bust out the juicy nuggets. Back when Ash and Yellow Mickey first departed from Pallet Town, Ash had the determination and the grit to become one of the greats, but none of the talent. And thus the original series was mainly focused on Ash's transformation from a newbie into a semi-competent trainer. In Kanto, Ash caught his first Pokemon, had his first battle, sucked down his first fat L at a Pokemon League, and began his ascent. Once he finally earned the respect of his unruly Charizard in the Orange Islands, won the Orange League, and even toppled his rival Gary Oak at long last in their Johto League Silver Conference Top 16 battle. Original series Ash was pretty rough around the edges, but he did manage to move from zero to sort of hero, and by the time the Advanced Generation segment of the anime began, Ash had gotten pretty full of himself, becoming less and less open to advice from friends and overconfident in his own abilities. To his credit, his training regimen and creative tactics were a cut above what he had to offer in the original series, but it wasn't until a humbling defeat at the manly pecs of Captain Drake that he could move past his arrogance, recognize his own shortcomings, and really take off as a trainer. And after a focused, methodical Battle Frontier run, in which he ultimately toppled Pyramid King Brandon and secured an offer to become a Frontier Brain, which he declined, we saw an Ash who was more level-headed and more open to new ideas than ever come on stage to light things up in the Diamond and Pearl saga. That said, in Sinnoh, Ash's confidence was shattered by a rival unlike any other, none other than Puny Pupil's Paul, a ruthless trainer operating on methodologies that were diametrically opposed to those of Ashy Boy. But it was Paul who pushed Ash farther than anyone ever had, and it was only by defeating Paul in the Lily of the Valley conference that Ash could truly confirm his own worldview and approach to training Pokemon. After going on somewhat of a cold streak in Black and White, as fun and goofy as the Ash of that era was, Ash's character took on a much more serious tone in XY, wherein he was truly in it to win it and just barely fell short of walking away from the series with his very first League Conference win in tow. And while Ash was exceptionally lighthearted and goofy in Sun and Moon, he was every bit as serious about battles and managed to score his very first conference win. Not to mention a victory over Kukui and Tapu Koko in the stunning exhibition match that capped off the tournament. And here we are at peak Ash, the Pokemon Journeys iteration of our hero, entering the show as Alola's first champion and crushing his way through the World Coronation Series. Toppling everyone from gym leader to Elite Four to champion to uber tier champion trainers to arrive at the ultimate battle. Ash versus Leon, a frenetic clash throughout which the two have battled their hearts out to determine who exactly is the very best of the very best, finally taking us to a stunning conclusion in Pokemon Journeys episode 132. So with the context around Ash's journey in place, let's review the key points of parts 1 to 3 of Ash vs. Leon before breaking down part 4 and why its sensational outcome is making waves around the globe. In Ash vs. Leon Part 1, Leon put the pressure on Ash, and Ash perhaps surprised Leon by not caving in and holding his ground, with both opponents taking a knockout apiece. Ash Gigantamaxing his Gengar to shut down Leon's Inteleon, and Leon's Mr. Rime responding with fancy footwork that put Gengar out for the count easily enough. And not to forget, the battle actually kicked off with a skirmish between Leon's Cinderace and Ash's Pikachu that was quickly called off when Cinderace activated its hidden Libero ability, changing its typing from fire to ground to gain immunity to Pikachu's electric type attacks, as well as pound it for weakness. Of course, the biggest moment of Part 1 came before the battle even began, when Leon requested a rule change to lift all battle mechanic restrictions, thus allowing Ash to use Gigantamax, Mega Evolution, and Z moves as opposed to just one of the three. I'm personally still not a big fan of this decision, since as a result we have seen Leon use just one mechanic compared to Ash's three, and I honestly would have preferred to see all mechanics taken off the table, but Leon wanted the two of them to both unleash their full power, so here we are. On the whole, Part 1 showed us that Ash vs. Leon would be a whole lot different from most of the other battles we have seen in the series, with both sides laying trap card after trap card, and neither opponent afraid to switch Pokemon on a dime in order to gain the advantage. In Ash vs. Leon Part 2, Ash took the lead on paper, but what was under the hood wasn't so good. Firstly, Ash sent in Sirfetch'd to pressure Leon's second Pokemon, Mr. Rime, and while Shirtless Donald soaked up some damage, it did manage to wipe out the environmental advantage that weird Uncle Jimmy had set up with Psychic Terrain. And with that, Ash pulled Sirfetch'd out in favor of Lucario, who immediately Mega Evolved to take out the trash. Surprisingly, Mega Lucario was quickly put on its back foot, but did eventually manage to pull off some Jean-Claude Van Damme Bloodsport antics in order to knock out Mr. Rime, and, well, everything went downhill from there, with Leon's Dragapult employing a hard-hitting mix of attacks, combined with Dragon Tail, which pulled Ash's Pokemon in and out of their Pokeballs, wreaking havoc on Ash's team, and paralyzing Lucario to snag an easy victory over it. It wasn't pretty. And while at some point during the Dragon Tail switcheroo shenanigans, Draco Vish went so hard that it unlocked a hidden dragon power that nobody seemed to understand and basically tried to ignore, by the time Dragonite was pulled back in to smite Dragapult into the dirt, redeeming itself for not taking a single knockout in a year and a half, Leon had stacked up significant damage on all of Ash's remaining team members. So while Ash may have been ahead in the prize trade, by the end of Part 2 he was actually in a pretty precarious position, and that just made everything so much more exciting. In Ash vs. Leon Part 3, the same broken Rillaboom that basically swept most of Diantha's team in the semi-finals stepped in to lay out both Dragonite and Sirfetch'd, before Kingfish entered the fray to put an end to its reign of Chimpy terror. I really hate that thing. But unfortunately for the king, Leon then sent out the pesky Cinderace, who had briefly laid the smackdown on Pikachu back in Part 1 of the battle, to drop our favorite fish lickety-split with a quick typing change and some fancy footwork. This left Ash with only Pikachu in reserve, whereas Leon had both his Cinderace and his fresh Charizard to work with. Not exactly a great position. Leon then switched into Charizard, immediately Gigantamaxing it as Pikachu fired off 10 million volt Thunderbolt, with the Energy Blast causing Eternatus to break loose from confinement over in Hammerlock and arrive in Winden Stadium to interrupt the battle just as the two aces finished expending their special mechanics. That is where we are at as we move into Part 4, and of course the biggest concern on everyone's minds has been that regardless of what Eternatus does to manipulate the match, Ash's heavily damaged Pikachu will have to drop both Leon's ace Charizard and his untouched Cinderace if he wants to seal the deal. It's a tall order for a short mouse, and I wouldn't have it any other way heading into the finale, as this uneasy scenario has ratcheted up the tension to 151. So with that said, let's discuss Ash vs. Leon Part 4, the big finale, and what it means for both Ash Ketchum and fans of the Pokemon anime. Firstly, I was happy to see that both Leon's Gigantamax Onslaught and Ash's 10 million volt Thunderbolt cancelled each other out to set the stage for a more fast, fluid, and interesting base form showdown. It would have felt cheap ending another battle with one of the big three blasters, so in my opinion, the writers scripted this part out perfectly. However, one had to wonder how exactly Eternatus would factor into all of this, and I think it more or less did what many of us expected it to do. Basically, Eternatus looks over the state of affairs at Winden Stadium as if he is Shenron, Leon summoned to grant a wish, and ultimately does exactly that, assuming that your wish was for more hard-hitting Gigantamax action, as Leon recharges both Ash and Leon's Dynamax bands before piecing out to the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Of course, Leon had already Gigantamaxed his Charizard, and we'd yet to see a Gigantamaxed Cinderace in the anime, so the sensible thing happened, with Leon recalling Charizard to G-Max his Cinderace, and Ash responding by G-Maxing Pikachu. Pikachu had come out on the short end of the stick in their clash back in part 1, but this time King Pika was ready and he layeth the smackdown, dropping that big rabbit like a sack of potatoes. It was a relief to see that the looming threat of Peter Rabbit had been wiped off the board. And then Charizard re-enters the fray and the real finale begins, with Charizard and Pikachu having at it in a battle running on sexy Sakuga more lit than Miss Molly after lunchtime pints at the local pub. And what a sight it was to see, with the animators not only depicting Pikachu and Charizard, but also Ash and Leon with a level of physicality that we have never before seen in the anime. They fought, and they fought some more, but for anyone who had seen the preview trailer for episode 132, we knew that this battle had to end with a never before seen absolute banger of an attack from Pikachu. And as expected, in the most tense Pokemon scene I have ever seen, just as Pikachu is about to collapse, we see Ash and every single one of the companions he has traveled with over the years looking on desperately. And as Pikachu actually does collapse, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats, we see not only Pikachu and Ash connect spiritually as they often do in such times, but Pikachu and all of Ash's Pokemon from over the years come together in the void, in a touching scene that brings Pikachu back from the brink. And sure enough, as Leon and Charizard ignite the flames of what has to be their big finisher, a show-stopping fire blast, Ash and Pikachu charge up their own blaster, an all-in attack that embodies the raw strength of their friendship. And while Ash doesn't actually call out the name of a brand new attack, simply screaming out Thunderbolt, it is a Thunderbolt unlike any we've ever seen, and quite likely a nod to the friendship-bolstered Pika-Pa-Pow technique of the video games. But whatever you want to call this mystical Thunderbolt, it is indeed a truly glorious attack. Pikachu floors it so hard that he becomes enveloped in a vortex of gyrating electrical whips, flashing yellow, black, and other colors of the rainbow, and then he lets it rip. Both Ash's Pikachu and Leon's Charizard charge in, engulfed in the unbridled power of their elements. Pikachu and Charizard's attacks collide, the stadium shakes as everyone looks on in shock. And when the dust clears and all is said and done, who exactly remains standing? None other than Pikachu. I can't believe it, you can't believe it, Mr. Baby Goat can't believe it, but it actually happened. Ash Ketchum has defeated the reigning monarch of the World Coronation Series, and with that, Ashy Boy himself has become the champion of the world after 25 years of the Pokemon anime, an achievement absolutely nobody could have imagined him pulling off back in 1997. I don't know about you, but it gives me the shivers. And the internet is practically breaking under the weight of this incredible scene. So, I think a toast of celebration is in order. To the writers, the animators, and the entire production staff whose hard work has taken us to this moment. To the fans who always keep the show interesting even at times when it is not so interesting. And to the man himself, Ash Ketchum, who embodies the virtues of hard work, determination, and never giving up. An unaging role model who is an inspiration to anyone who seeks to better themselves, and a role model who will no doubt continue to inspire us for many years to come. Truly, what an unbelievable day it has been. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I think you'll be pleased to know that while this episode marks the end of the Ash vs. Leon battle, there are still 3 Pokemon Journeys episodes left in the tank, and we'll be talking about what's to come in the next video. So until then, take it easy, enjoy the weekend, let the crazy outcome of today's battle sink in, and with that, this is Charles signing out, but we will talk again soon. We are just 1 week out from the next generation of Pokemon television games. And I finally got my pre-order in for Pokemon Professor Sada the other day. Not to mention that Weiwei is going in on Pokemon Violet, so I should be able to get those sweet, sweet version-exclusive Pokemon as well. I haven't been so stoked to play a new Pokemon game since Gold and Silver were on the way, so I really do hope Game Freak nails this one. And I actually made a video a few weeks ago that described my hopes for Generation 9, as well as an even meatier 20-minute video digging into some of the popular concerns about the game more recently. To be honest, I'd like to start doing more gaming content, perhaps on this channel, but perhaps on a second channel. But what do you think? Would you be interested in seeing me talk about Pokemon games or even other games? And if so, what exactly would you be interested in seeing me talk about? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.